The Galactic Core, the home of the Leagues of Votann. The two kin sat at their desk waiting and watching, with deep anticipation. Their scanners had chirped into life only moments before, breaking what had been a long period of tedium. After the initial alarms had woken them, they had both hurried to their positions, but on discovering the nature of the alert, one had rushed off. His friend had raised an eyebrow, but had said nothing. What could be worth missing out on the only activity they had witnessed in weeks? The answer was simple, as his colleague came rushing back with snacks. The other kin beamed at him as they both now looked at the screens and chortled. For the proximity alarm had indeed identified an interloper, a Tau ship, a scout. They both watched on with twinkles in their eyes and pushed light nibbles into their faces. This would be fun. For the ship was heading directly into a gravity well, a ripper that would tear their vessel to pieces in mere seconds. They were not invited, so the kin felt absolutely no compunction to warn them. And so they watched and laughed. It was not out of hatred or rage or fear or revenge. It was the simple joy of watching an outlander ship attempt to merely survive where they thrived. It was a testament to the tenacity and will of the kin. And the show did not last long. Welcome, gentle listener. I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the factions, forces, and faces of the Warhammer 40k setting. The grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace. There is only time for war. Don't forget, we have a natural history and mythology channel as well now. Links in the description, so go have a shufti. Now, let us proceed. And today, we are to begin our delve into the new lore surrounding the kin of the Leagues of Votann. A new faction, but an old idea brought back to life. So, in the next few days, I hope to put out some wee cookies of lore to break us into the subject at a consumable pace. This is, to all extents and purposes, a new topic, and thus I shall indeed be quoting, why not? It's so fresh off the press, so to put it. The only thing I would note is my apologies, but the author of the new codex seems to have a preponderance for lists, like a lot. So don't shoot the messenger, I'm only reading out what is stated. And so, as usual, for the very basics, let us lean on existing wisdom. From the first codex for the Leagues of Votann, to quote, the Galactic Core. The Galactic Core is an immense region, one of the most turbulent in all of the known galaxy. It is also, to those who dwell outside of its boundaries, known for being one of the most mysterious and perilous stretches of space imaginable. Most void-faring races have at least one cautionary tale of foolish explorers vanishing amidst its blazing stellar nurseries and strange anomalies. Yet, for the Leagues of Votann, the Galactic Core has been home. Yet, for the Leagues of Votann, the Galactic Core has been home now for millennia. The Galactic Core is a truly vast region of space, one within which all of the fundamental forces of the universe seem heightened and intensified to sometimes bewildering degrees. The sheer density of stars alone is disorienting and extremely hazardous for those unused to it. Many worlds within the core never experience the true darkness of night, or are perpetually bombarded by a wide spectrum of exotic and often extremely dangerous radiation. Due to the strange interactions between stellar bodies, dense particulate belts, and titanic electromagnetic anomalies, there are regions in which the gravitic pull of comparative small moons and planetoids is immensely magnified. Dense asteroid belts thousands of miles across ravenous black holes, polarized, vitrified, and even sentient nebula, enigmatic and terrifying grey stars. These and countless other phenomena endanger any daring the core. Yet for all these perils, many alien races successfully inhabit this vast region, even prosper amidst its opportunities and riches. The kin are foremost amongst these, inarguably so, for the territories of their Leagues of Votann occupy much of the core when taken as a whole. However, both within their boundaries and beyond, countless dangers still lurk, and strange beings ply the stars in search of plunder, trade, and conquest, or in the hopes of sating other strange desires. The Great Arthurian League controls one of the largest swathes of territory of any of the Leagues of Votann. They benefit from many sources of raw materials and, after millennia of constant toil and bloodshed, have eliminated most of the more prominent alien threats within their borders. Their trade routes are widespread, even striking out into far space. Few of the Leagues of Votann possess territories as rich in raw materials as those of the Emir conglomerate. Of course, such wealth comes at a price. Many of the minor alien empires and invading raiders who have come seeking the bounty claimed by the kin, and much blood has been spilled in the never-ending war to drive them away. The Gulo industrial complex control a broad belt of territories that curls counter-spinward towards the southern heartlands of the Galactic core. This League of Votann are forever seeking to add new territories and planets to their impressive holdings, and are skilled in transforming even the most barren world into productive and valuable assets. The circumnuclear disk. This strange liminal zone fringes the galactic core. It appears from afar like a shifting mosaic of many hued particulate nebula that fall eternally inward towards the core. Close up, its true perilous nature is revealed. The disk is wrenched at by unstable empiric currents just beneath the skin of reality, and bedeviled by strange radiation spectra, errant gravitic anomalies, dense asteroid fields, and tumbling rogue stars in real space. It is a truly perilous region to cross, even for the most skilled helmsman. End quote. Ah, the Leagues of Votann. What a conundrum, and a dicey little entry to the lore, for so much depends on their secrecy. The entire setting could be upended by one simple error on their part, but I shall discuss that more in depth later in the week. Now, many will say, how can the Leagues have been forgotten for so long? How did the Imperium not know of them? This is a question that has one simple answer. The Imperium did not forget them, but they were not a threat. So they were never forgotten, merely ignored. For the kin's home, the core, is a region that has so many anomalies, is so much more difficult and dangerous to colonize, or even scout to be honest, that I imagine it was simply seen as not cost-effective to bother. And few threats have emerged from the core to give the huge and sluggardly Imperium the prick it would need to take notice. And as we have heard, the gravitic anomalies, the difficulty in making conventional warp jumps, and the harshness of the planets that are ventured to, all add up to make this adventure not worthy of the taking in the first place. At least, from the perspective of the already stretched Imperium of Man. And people do confuse the Imperium of Mankind for something it is not. The Imperium is stated to stretch from one end of the galaxy to the other, which I have stated before, and it is true. But the distribution of colonies is sporadic and very sparse, really. For there are 1,000,000 lights in the human empire, 1,000,000 worlds held. But this is a tiny fragment of the stars in the galaxy, a minuscule amount. Some are not habitable, useful, or worthy of the effort. But also, there are oddities in that the space lanes, the warp lanes that the navigators tend to use, are not some pretty collage linking every star to its neighbours. Many sectors of the galaxy have entire swathes of stars that do not have a Mandeville point, as they are not connected by warp lanes. Hence, they are simply too difficult to get to. compared to normal worlds and systems. And this is why the Imperium may extend over the entire map of the galaxy, but does not have a coverage over all of the stars within it. Who knows what terrors lie untouched, undiscovered, and inactive, hiding or growing outside of the normal space lanes. But I digress. But now, of course, we know why so few dangers have actually come from the core to bother anyone else. They were fighting the kin of the Leagues of Votann, and the League seemed to have been doing an adequate job of clearing this region of most potentially hazardous xenos. Hence, there was simply no need for the Imperium to bother. Although the regions directly adjacent to the core may have had localized trade or encounters with the kin, the reports of these events would be languishing in data stacks or on administratum record worlds. Hence the Imperium as a whole has not been concerned. And nor are the forces of the Imperium expansive enough to check every report, respond to every oddity. Therefore, they have not had reason to raise a crusade into the core. But, to be honest, it is likely that any crusade would be a bloodbath for its own. Fighting in the core region would be a nightmare for any who are not raised there, as we are to see over the course of this week. The kin of the Leagues of Votann are resilient, pragmatic, and forward-thinking, because they have to be. If they had suffered from any of the many malaises that infected the Imperium, they would have been wiped out millennia ago. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. A swift reminder about our other channels, links in the description. I hope you have enjoyed this brief introduction and will be joining me over the week as we explore this rich and fascinating new faction. And thank you for your precious time. Now, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.